Awesome.
Okay, I think it's
we're
recording.
good.
Hello, everybody.
Hi.
Hello. Thank you for joining us. I hope it's live and working. So we're talking about the fashion round for the Book Club, where we read The Chiffon Trenches by... Oh, I've just remembered another thing I want to talk about this book, actually. The Chiffon Trenches by Andre Leon Talley and Fashionopolis, The Price of Fast Fashion and the Future of Clothes by Dana Thomas. I should probably say who I'm joined with as well. That would be useful. So I'm joined with Kim on the stage and Emily down below.
Hello.
Hey guys. I just need to make a note of another thing I was going to say. Which book do you want to start with?
Should we start with Fashionopolis?
Yep, sounds good. Have I shut my door? I haven't shut my door. I was thinking I can hear loads of noises. I'm just going to shut my door.
That's good. Yeah, I'm glad Hannah had a copy of Fashionopolis because I don't.
I have no physical copies of any of these. I listen to all of them on audio.
Fashionopolis. Would somebody... I've got some thoughts on it.
Okay.
But maybe I save my thoughts for later. Well, I don't know. I can go first if you would so wish. But yeah. Shall I go first? I'll go first. Okay.
Yeah.
So I guess I kind of have to give an introduction of what on earth this book is. So I guess the title gives it away a bit. So it's more like a journalistic account of the current fashion industry and environmentalism in the fashion industry as well. Also ethical as well, ethical concerns that are kind of historic in fashion as well. So it starts off with the historical side, doesn't it, of the Industrial Revolution and Manchester, and I've completely forgotten the word for it. People in horrible working conditions in factories. So I thought it was interesting. It started with a bit more history. I was kind of surprised with it in lots of ways, actually. Mm-hmm. So the first thing, I am not convinced with it in its current format, to be honest. Okay. I don't want to be too negative because I think it does have a lot of positives as well. But the main thing I thought about it was it talks a lot about the people in the industry and not so much about the science and the technology. Mm. So I was kind of hoping for more science rather than... I'm not really interested in... And this sounds so harsh. I'm not interested in like the people's backgrounds as much and kind of where these environmentalists have come from. Like, I just want to know what they're doing rather than their background. I'm not really interested in that. But that's just a personal thing. And I think it's because she's a journalist that it felt more kind of story-based.
It was very anecdotal, wasn't it? It
was
like, this is this family business and this is this business and about the process of the person rather than...
Yeah, definitely. I think it feels kind of like a documentary style in my head. Like, I can really picture this being like a documentary series or something.
Absolutely.
I've been into like Louis Theroux's Weird Weekends. I don't know if it's shown in America, but
not that I've heard anyway.
It's
I'm also just not in touch with culture, so there's also that.
I think it's like a very like British thing. This kind of awkward man goes and interviews people and tries to not infiltrate but sort of infiltrate like extremist groups and does documentaries on them. He's a very cool journalist, but yeah, he kind of looks into lots of different topics and just kind of finds out about the people and their stories and stuff. So I don't know, I'm not convinced by it, but I think it's just a me problem rather than the actual book. But yeah, what do you guys think?
Yeah, it definitely does feel like it was written by a journalist, which for me works. I tend to really enjoy, I actually took a journalism class in high school and thought about going into journalism. So for me, it works. I can definitely see what you're saying though. Definitely did feel like a documentary. Like I could fully picture this being some sort of docuseries. And I would love to get like an updated, like if this could be a docuseries and they could go back and get an update, because this was written in, why am I blanking on the year?
I can't remember what it was. Was it 2019?
I think it was. Okay, 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. And so, which, I mean, obviously isn't actually that long ago, but in terms of how fast industries like that move, like and also plus COVID and how COVID might have affected anything that she was talking about. It would be fun to get a docuseries, but updated, and to visit some of the places that she went and just see what's changed, or go back to some, because there's a little bit of the science and technology, and I can definitely understand wanting more of that, because I think I was like, oh, this is also super interesting. Like, I want to, what's going on with this? And so it'd be cool to go back to some of those and see like, okay, where's 3D printing at? Like, can we go see a place where some clothes are being 3D printed? Can we see what's going on with different business models of how, because I think it was super, at least for me, it was super fun to at least meet some people who had different types of business models and be like, all right, this is a really cool idea. Let's see how we can scale this, or if we scale it, like what kind of impact could that make on the industry overall? Like how far could we actually get if we scaled up this type of business model and had more of it? And would that make some inroads into all of the problems that she's talking about that are linked to fashion that you wouldn't necessarily think are linked to fast fashion? But it was really cool to get like, and I think this is also part of where the science came in, was just, or I guess also just social aspects of how it all came together. You wouldn't necessarily think it's linked to the fast fashion industry, but chemical and toxic waste, how many clothes are thrown out, and just the general waste that's produced there, the factories, human rights issues, just a lot of things. I'm like, I also want to know what's going on there 4 years later, because also, if it was published in 2019, with how long she was writing and researching it, I mean, the things she was talking about were going on in like mid approaching a little bit later 2010s, but I'm like, at this point, she was probably talking to people, what, 6 years ago?
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I do think some of the initiatives as well, like I can't remember, I read this quite a while ago, I'm not going to lie. I read it like 3 months ago, so 2 months ago. But I do think that, yeah, you're right, because of the pandemic, some things just haven't seemed to have come out of what she was talking about. And obviously businesses are folded and all that kind of stuff. I don't know how accurate this is, but I did think it wasn't very intersectional, I guess. Like, I felt like that's a note that I've written down.
There certainly could have been more. Yeah,
I felt like it was kind of one lane that she was going in with types of business, and then that was, from what I remember anyway. I would have liked it to have been a bit more diverse, I guess, in what she was talking about. You can't talk about everything, I understand, in like one book, and she's researched what she's researched. But for me, like, I found the most interesting part of the book talking about, the fashions of the future. So the 3D printing, growing leather in a lab instead of breeding animals for leather and things like that. I'm very interested in that. I'm vegetarian because I don't want to eat animals. I've been veggie since I was like 5. So I like thinking about stuff like that. And I like hearing about new initiatives, even though it sounds kind of gross to grow leather in a lab. And I wonder if there would be any pushback from that, from the general public, which I think goes in line with growing meat in a lab, isn't it? Because it's
just to eat.
Like how the public are going to respond to that, and different changes to kind of help with the environment. Because obviously, like, aside from animal rights, it's also probably better to, I say probably because I don't know, but to grow leather in a lab, because you're not taking up loads of space, you're not having to feed the animals, so you're not, there's all that less environmental impact and things like that. So I liked hearing about all of those things more than I did about, oh, this cotton farm does this and this is where you get this blue dye from, like that kind of thing. So I would like to get updates as well.
I'm going to see the scene of 5-year-old Kim be like, I'm going to be veggie, Mom. I really want to see this.
Well, it was my mum. My mum watched a documentary and then she asked. She told us what it was, and then so it was a choice, but it was also a family thing. Yeah.
Interesting, because I think for me, reading about the cotton, I thought was really interesting, and like thinking about the dyes and like the indigo dyes, because it's something like dyes and stuff isn't something I've hugely thought about before. Like I've thought about certified cotton before and how it pollutes the atmosphere, but like waters and rivers and stuff like that. So it was interesting to kind of learn something new. But with the kind of lab grown animal products and things, when I was reading it, I thought that's very interesting scientifically, but I thought, I don't know, I just thought, what's the point kind of thing? Like, it's just, leather's just a trend like any other material. It's kind of been around for decades and decades, and I just kind of think, I don't really get why we would grow a leather when we could just like reuse pre-existing materials or learn to recycle materials better, which you did go into as well. I thought this was like I don't know, more sensible initiative than trying to recreate a material that we don't really need. But
it's interesting because I kind of feel like with synthetic shoe, I don't wear leather because I'm vegetarian, but I do feel like having a leather pair of shoes, I don't know if this is true, but it feels like it's better for your feet because it molds to your feet. Do you know what I mean? Over time, it's kind of a bit more durable than synthetic things. And obviously it's not plastic, so it's biodegradable and stuff like that. So I wonder if that is like a positive reason for using it, because I don't know about recycling materials, like what kind of materials you could recycle, because you can make shoes and fake leather from plant-based things as well now, can't you? There's people who make leather out of, I don't know, pineapples and stuff like that, isn't it? So you could do that, but then again, you're having to make the space to grow the things to do it if you can't recycle. So I wonder if that is a benefit of growing things in a lab. But I get what you're saying.
It's interesting. Like I don't think I fully kind of visualized how it would work as well, like, because if they're gonna create the same amount of, let's just say, leather that's created today, like how much, they obviously need far less space, but I don't know, I just can't visualize how it would work. But I think that's just because I'm not a scientist, so I'm struggling to kind of think of it. And I don't know, it's just a bizarre concept, I think. But yeah, for shoes, definitely. I would completely forgot about shoes, to be honest. I was thinking of jackets
and bags
and trousers. But yeah, shoes, I think so. And they're waterproof, which is always a benefit.
For the weather too.
Yeah, it is interesting. Because we take up so much space just for like fields of growing materials and stuff. So yeah, I definitely think that's a benefit of it. But
did it shape anything that you wanted to think about for your Etsy business, or for your business?
I'm thinking we don't need any more new clothes in the world, and I'm kind of thinking I probably will shut it down at some point, because I also can't track every element of it, because I outsource it. So I want to be, if I'm running that sort of business, I want to be able to know every step where that product is coming from. And although the people who actually make the t-shirts, who sew them and source the materials, they are like a more sustainable company, I still can never know for certain where that's come from. So I'm like, I don't know if I morally can put up with it. I mean, and also, yeah, I don't know, it's the whole new clothes thing. It's not like a t-shirt is, it's not like it's a rare piece of fashion. Like you can get a t-shirt from anywhere as well. So it's not like I'm solving any issues by selling t-shirts. So yeah.
There's also, I think, a lot of other stuff you had wanted to, like different types of things you had wanted to sell through there, right?
Yeah, I think so. But I think if I were to run a kind of sustainable business, you kind of need more money into it, and to be able to track what's happening and what kind of materials you're using, and and then the cost goes up with each item you sell as well, and then that's a whole thing within itself. It kind of spoke a little bit at the end about renting clothes and renting items. I thought it was very interesting what Stella McCartney said. I think it's very cool what she's doing. At the same time, reading that quote, I was like, when she was talking about people buying Stella McCartney, like bags or clothes or shoes, whatever, they were talking about the issue of price. If you can't get it when it's at full price, then get it at the sale. If you can't get it at the sale, get it at the sale of the sale, or get it secondhand. And I'm like, girl, you're Stella McCartney. I mean, your things are going to be expensive even secondhand. You're not going to get like a £5 Stella McCartney bag.
Right.
I didn't think it was really so much kind of the financial side, that it seems to focus a lot on new clothes and what we can do with the clothes we own already, how it can be recycled. Then what about people who can't really afford to put their money into these sustainable businesses? What do they do?
Yeah, no, that's fair.
I looked up the bags for Stella McCartney and I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I did as well.
Sticker shock.
Yeah. It's a shame that it's kind of it's difficult to for the normal person to just be able to buy anything sustainable. Is basically it almost feels impossible, because I try at the moment to try and source things from, like, that say, obviously I'm trusting these companies when they say they're sustainable and they're using all these materials, like, because you can say anything on the internet that you want, really, can't you? But even those things are just they're so pricey, and I just end up stalling and not buying anything until I'm like desperate, and then I panic buy, and I just panic buy whatever, because I'm like desperate need for it. But it's a bit of a maze, isn't it? Just trying to find something that is good for the environment and that you do want and you do need, and it's long lasting. Yeah, it's very challenging. Very challenging.
I think we're very lucky in kind of England, and I always say England, I don't know why, in the UK, and also I guess in America as well, you have more like thrift shop kind of things. And we have our charity shops, and that's a great way of being sustainable. But I mean, I think there's a whole culture around thrift shops and charity shops, and it's kind of a norm in our society to have a high street that has charity shops on it. Well, but I don't know if that's the case for other countries. How are people in other countries supposed to, if they are sustainably minded, how are they going to afford this kind of thing? I just had a thought, but I forgot what it was, so that's not very useful.
I was also I was looking up a video of that 3D printing thing, and I was watching someone on YouTube do. I can't remember now. If I can remember what video it is, I'll link it. Well, I'll give it to Hannah. I'll write in the comments, something like that. But it's all like plastic, and like it's just not environmentally friendly, and it looks like a right pain to have to put everything together. Have you guys looked it up? How to do it?
I've seen the very small 3D printers. Like a few years ago, I got my granddad one, I don't know if he's ever used it, but it's like kind of like a pencil thing, and then you have the plastic coming out. So it's not like you tell the computer what to do. It's more like your hands on.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, the pen that you kind of 3D draw.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It is a strange concept. And they said, one of the experts in it near the end, I think, said, again, it's kind of like how COVID's affected it. He said, oh yeah, I expect this to be a huge thing, and by 2020 it's going to be very popular, and it's going to be in people's homes. They're going to have 3D printers, and it hasn't quite happened yet, but it's not that great for the planet, is it? And I feel like it's kind of worse in that you have access to new clothes just in your bedroom because you can make them straight away, and I don't think that's like mitigating the problem. It's kind of intensifying it.
And I do think, how many, if it does become a norm and it is cheap to kind of do, like that, would that just mean that people would just print something, put it on, oh, I don't really like that, chuck it away, print something else. It feels wasteful.
And putting other people out of jobs as well, who
are
very skilled, and it was interesting to read about how like the majority of clothes are handmade, and it's very difficult to get machines to behave and to sew clothes together. Because in my head, I hadn't really thought about that before. I just assumed a robot could do it, but I don't know if that's the future. Maybe.
We'll see.
Yeah, the future is humans need not apply, unfortunately. As P.P. Gray said once. It's quite worrying, really, how much stuff is probably going to be automated in the future.
It is scary. What else was I think I've said everything I was going to talk about. I said about my quote. I was excited to share that quote. Well, a paraphrasing quote about Stella McCartney. I think it was interesting when they were talking about Selfridges, because I like Selfridges because I don't know if it's just me. I like looking at things. I never buy anything, but I like looking at all the things. So it's nice that such a huge corporation is trying to be more sustainable.
What did they say about Selfridges? I can't remember.
So I think they were saying about how they were like putting these labels on things saying if it's certified cotton. They got rid of all like the plastic water bottles and things like that. I think they're doing this, I don't know if it talks about it in the book, but a scheme where they're doing like repurposed fashion, or like like reloved designer clothes. So something that might have gone to waste, or I hope designer like Chanel wouldn't go to waste because it's so expensive, but like kind of reworking it and then selling it on at a bit of a cheaper price. Which I guess even if people don't buy it, it gets people thinking about the life cycle of clothes, which I think was good. And I hope they carry on doing it.
I mean, I think it does feel like things are getting better when you go into shops here, like H&M. They seem to be using a slightly more sustainable fabrics, and you can recycle things with them. And was I in M&S the other day, Marks and Spencer's, and they had like certified cotton, maybe. I might be misquoting that, but so, and I don't know, how is it in America? Do you feel like there's more awareness about it?
I think so. And I think there's also definitely a good culture of going to thrift shops and trying to get stuff secondhand. That's definitely how I've gotten a good chunk of my wardrobe. Because the thrift shops around here, at least around here, and probably around a lot of especially bigger cities where there's just more people who can donate to thrift shops, like there can be some pretty good finds. Actually, this one, I think I got at a thrift shop not too long ago.
Nice.
But like you can find some great, sometimes even name brand stuff that is really discounted. So
that reminded me of what I was going to say. I said I was going to say something, I forgot what it was. I remembered. I saw this Instagram reel that kind of rubbed me up the wrong way, shall we say. And it was of this person going to a thrift shop, and there was this really cute dress. She said, "Oh man, I love this dress." And then she looked at the label, and it was a Shein. Is it Shein or Shen? I never know how to pronounce it.
Oh yeah.
And then
I'm actually not sure.
And then she was so annoyed it was a Shein dress, and I was looking at the comments at all her arguments of why she hated that it was Shein, and I was just thinking, this is ludicrous. What was her main argument was that this is causing the thrift shops to dispose of loads of clothes because no one buys them. And I'm like, but you were literally just posting a video of you not buying it.
Right, yeah.
It and then saved it going to landfill. So if you care about it going to landfill, why didn't you buy it? Because you liked it anyway. Anyway, yeah, I thought about that reel for quite some time. Good stuff.
Is it what she didn't want to buy it because she didn't agree with the company?
She didn't like Shein because the materials are really cheap.
Right. Okay, yeah.
But fair enough if you don't agree with the company, but at the same time, like, no one's gonna know apart from you, and you're not supporting, this is my view anyway, you're not supporting the company by buying it secondhand, especially in a thrift shop where...
Right, you're supporting the thrift shop.
Yeah.
This is how I view books as well that are by authors that I don't actually want to give my money to, because there definitely are some.
Yeah.
Like I will always get Orson Scott Card's books secondhand. I will never buy them firsthand.
Yeah.
They're just certain authors. And I kind of view it the same way. I'm like, well, I'm supporting the secondhand bookstore, not actually the author. So.
Exactly. Yeah.
I always forget in America, most thrift stores are like companies, aren't they? Because over here they're usually charity shops, so they're like for a certain charity. And I was really shocked when I lived in Canada and I went in and I was looking around like, what charity is this for? But
they're usually just independent business. I mean, some of them definitely are for specific charities, but some of them are also just independent businesses.
Yeah, which is still good because it's all secondhand stuff. But yeah, I was just shocked at that difference because you don't really get that over here. We have vintage shops and stuff which work in a similar way, but I feel like that feels separate to the charity shops.
Yeah, definitely. It's so expensive, like vintage shops as well. Well, a lot of the ones I've been in, I love the clothes, but then I'm like, oh man, I can't afford it. It's very sad. But yeah.
Point is, buy secondhand. That's the moral of the story.
Has everyone said what they think? Would anybody like to add anything to Fashionopolis, which looks like this?
I'm glad you have a physical copy. I was all audio for this. Like, I can't read books if it's not audio anymore. I just...
Yeah, I think so. I think my main thing at the end was just when she was talking about renting clothes. I was just shocked at, like, it kind of feels like, if you're already rich, you can rent the clothes, because I think we spoke about this when we did the tag video, but they're just so pricey, like even those kind of rental places anyway at the moment, that didn't feel accessible either. Like like Joe Blogs coming along and thinking about renting something.
I'm also too clumsy. I feel like, I mean, I've thought about it, but I'm like, I'm also just too clumsy to rent clothes.
That is
like
true.
I would just stain them. Like coffee stains everywhere, sauce stains everywhere.
I think if you've got like the money to rent clothes, then you don't feel as bad about wearing it and getting stuff on it, because you're like, if I ruin it, I can just pay the full price for it, or I can pay the insurance on it. This is completely irrelevant, but somewhat relates and also makes it look like I have a lot of cognitive dissonance. But I went to supercar show. I love cars. It's a really weird thing. Anyway, I love cars. And I went to this supercar show with my dad and my partner, and there were exceptional cars. There's like Aston Martins, Lamborghinis, McLarens. Anyway,
just thinking of F1 races now.
Oh man, the F1 today.
I just watched this morning's one.
Oh man, do you like F1? I love F1.
Matt has gotten me into F1, which is never something I thought I would get into. But
it's great. The past 2 races, top notch.
yeah.
I still don't really understand what happened at Japan, but anyway, yeah.
Complete aside.
I don't know if it was me. It's usually somebody else talking to the strangers, so I was probably just listening. But this man was saying, "Oh, yeah, I mean, with my Aston, you can't be sentimental about it getting scratches and stuff because." You're just going to be scared about it all the time. And so it was a really muddy field. They'd taken these hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of cars in. So I feel like if you can afford it, they don't care if it's going to get messy or tarnished or live that life. Not having to worry about money all the time. Very me. Yeah.
It must be nice.
What happened? I don't know what happened. Sorry, something weird has happened on my computer. There we go. I fixed it. I'm a genius. Is that everything?
I think so.
Cool. So we shall go on to a memoir, Andre Leon Talley, The Chiffon Trenches.
Mm-hmm.
Would anybody like to start with some positive things about the book?
Why do you only have negative things about the book? I tell you what, I just finished this. Like, I know that I should have read it a long time ago, but I thought I'd wait until we were doing this and then finish it up. So I read half of it in the last couple of days.
You're going to start since it's probably freshest in your mind.
Yeah, this is fresh. Yeah, not the first half. I read that ages ago. But I actually did enjoy reading this, and I know it is quite name droppy, but I think that's indicative of like the fashion industry and what is important in that world from what I gather.
Yeah.
But I also just I really felt for him and just thinking about like things that he's been through that he couldn't talk about or he obviously struggled with his whole life because he passed away last year, didn't he?
Or somewhat recently.
Yeah, 2022, I think. And you think like when he was writing this, he was still struggling with those things. So it's, and I really appreciated learning about his story, really, I think overall. So I did have a positive experience reading it. But I don't know what you guys thought.
Yeah. I think overall also had a fun time listening. There definitely were I definitely was interested in good portions of it and was curious to hear his story and what would happen. He just has some interesting stories to tell. And I also definitely felt for him with some stuff that happened that either he didn't want to talk about or just didn't feel like it was relevant to most of what he just wanted to talk about in the book. But there were some parts where I'm like, oh, he briefly mentioned that he went through like some of these traumatic experiences and like that's awful. And like his relationship with his mom, where I was just like, I just felt so bad because I adore my mom. And like, if I didn't have a good relationship with her, anyway, like there were so many things where, I was like, this is really sad, but also some parts where it was just like really interesting or funny stories that was like, all right. And definitely very, very name droppy. Where I was like, or sometimes it wouldn't even be relevant to the story. Like I can understand if he's talking about specific events and there are going to be people who are relevant to the story, but it was kind of funny to just be like, it's not even relevant, but like, oh, I met that person, or like, of course I met that person, and or this person was at this table, but like no other mention of that person. Just like, it's like, okay.
But I feel like, I mean, I don't know because I don't know anything about the fashion industry, but I wonder, like, it feels like your status seems to be based on your group of people that you're surrounded by, which is, it also happens in everyday life as well, doesn't it? You're associated with it. It feels very heightened in this situation.
Yeah, or like your reputation really matters.
Yeah, and that one person can just damage you like that. or like cut you out. And I feel
which happened in multiple times, which I was like,
yeah.
Definitely were parts where
it doesn't surprise me, but it's just I just wish people weren't like that. Like, I have a real dislike for people in power that treat others terribly. It fills me with rage. So reading about those things made me feel angry, because I was just like, really, who do you think you are? Like, other than being really rich and
like, okay, you're rich
in your field, you know, that's it. Who are you? Like, compared to other people.
Yeah, or just interesting parts where he can talk about his complicated feelings about, like, Anna Wintour comes to mind, where it's like he genuinely had some really positive experiences with her, but then also, like, she could turn on him at the drop of a hat. And just him talking about his complicated relationship with people that he could have both very positive and negative feelings about. And part of me is like, did you ever get that apology from Anna Wintour? Like, obviously, probably not.
I did Google that, actually.
Oh, really?
I mean, I didn't read the article, but I saw a headline that said that they made up.
Interesting.
I didn't look into, because I only just finished it, so I was quickly trying to find it.
Okay, I'll be sure to Google that.
I think she spoke at his funeral as well.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Yeah, so that's really interesting. Okay, I want to look more up about that.
Don't quote me on that, because it was a quick Google, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I was at up with Matt's family in Cape Cod, still working, but like we were just up there when I was listening to this one. So this is one where I'll always remember where I was when I listened to this, just because I was somewhere else, and it's like a very distinct memory. But so that week was pretty crazy, and then I just forgot that I was interested in Googling what happened between them after this was published, because like he calls her out.
He really does, and I was shocked. And I did kind of think, because he said at one point that he's written a previous memoir where he didn't call people out.
Right.
And I was like, is that because she's female? He felt like he could call her out, and maybe he didn't want to call Carl. I mean, I don't know who it was he avoided out, but it did make me wonder if it was because she's female that made it easier to call her out, or maybe it was just the closeness of the relationship. I don't know. Or the fact that he still, but yeah, I thought all the backlash of that, I wonder what happened. It made me intrigued. But yeah, it's kind of no. But I was going to say something, but I've completely forgotten. I'll come back to me. So Hannah, do you want to say your thoughts?
Yeah. So, well, I gave it 3 stars. So that's a good thing, I suppose. But yeah, I feel like this is my impression of it anyway. Not an impression of his life, but just an impression of kind of what he thinks people are interested in his life. I didn't think quite matched up. So yeah, the name dropping, he seems to build a lot of his identity on the people he's met and the people he knows. And well, like you were saying, Kim, it's kind of feels like maybe this is just a product of the fashion industry, like it's who you know, not what you know, that kind of thing. But that did irritate me a lot, in that I just thought, I'm not gaining anything from what he's saying about all these other people. It's not interesting. But the main thing I thought as well with it is that, to me, it lacked vulnerability in areas where I was kind of expecting it. And I think that's kind of the point in a memoir. And also, it didn't seem like he had that terrible a life in how I read it. And then, it's called The Chiffon Trenches. And I was expecting it to be absolutely terrible, that he got loads of like nice clothes and wonderful events and so many famous people he knows. And it just didn't really seem like he had life hugely that bad, I think. Or the things he talked about, which seemed kind of traumatic, he didn't go.
He didn't talk about a lot.
But there were times. My favorite parts was when he was honest and vulnerable. So when he was talking about his weight, for example, he talked about his weight, And I was like, this is the side of you I was expecting to see in this book. And I don't think the audience are interested in other people and how you relate to other people. I think people were interested in how these things made you feel rather than just some events that happened to you. So yeah, my favorite bits were definitely when he was talking about his emotions and how events and people made him feel rather than just events, and with no commentary on anything about those events other than that they just happened to him. Yeah, there seemed to be a lot of times where he said about his childhood, and the chapter on his childhood was just so tiny and
it's so short.
It's so short, and I'm like, I'm interested in how you got here, how you got into fashion, and you know, your upbringing and how that's impacted you, because it's obviously had a huge effect. But then he hasn't really been vulnerable in talking about it. So then I don't know.
Yeah,
I guess
that makes complete sense.
Fashion memoir, isn't it, rather than his mind autobiography.
Yeah.
But I also feel like I got the impression, obviously I can't put words in his mouth, but I got the impression like I say, he never dealt with any of that. And at one point when he goes to rehab about his weight, he said, I can't talk about what happened to me. And so I think for him, like, he just couldn't talk about it, but he was very blunt about it. And I think it was that kind of like, he had just accepted that that was him, and that he wasn't, you know, that he was quite upfront about things and saying, you know, I'm sexually repressed because of this, and that's the end of the story. I'm not going to go into it anymore.
Right.
Kind of felt like maybe he just couldn't, like, because he never
processed it.
Yeah. Which when it came to how they treated him when he put on loads of weight, I just thought, I mean, we all know what it used to be like, you know, 10 years, 20 years ago with fat shaming and stuff. But I just thought, I felt like their interventions with him was very much focused on, whoa, you're getting like way too big for this. And it wasn't like, oh, you know, what's going on with you? It didn't feel like it was about him and how he was feeling and why he was binge eating and all that kind of stuff. And that made me feel sad for him. The fact that he felt, because at one point as well, he said he didn't find himself unattractive. Like, he was quite happy being that weight, but there was all that pressure for him to change because of the industry. Yeah,
and just access to mental health services in general. Like, when he probably most needed them is definitely not what it would be today. So yeah, it definitely, I felt like there was a lot that he just had never really been able to fully process or come to terms with or heal from or try to work through. Because I couldn't imagine just, you know, being someone at that time who's like one of the few Black fashion journalists who has had all of this go on in his life, and like and he especially just, I mean, not only lack of access to mental health services, but also just being as busy and just doing as much as he had. Just, I think his coping mechanism was to just be busy and not deal with it. Which is sad, because you know, who knows what could have been different if, you know, that had happened, you know, things like that had happened to someone now and they had hopefully access to either therapy or at least better just conversations around those issues with people and be able to work through some of that. And, you know, how different it could have been for him mentally, emotionally. But
I also feel like as well, like, his close relationships with people, they were so, like, he could just be cut out at any moment. It was so unstable. Like, can you imagine being friends with someone for decades and then feeling like they would just drop you at the drop of a hat? Like, that's no way to live.
That'd be so traumatic.
Yeah, like, some of my best friends I've known since school, we've known each other for ages, and I don't have any doubts that they're not going to be there for like the rest of my life. So, you know, And it feels like for such insignificant things that happen as well, people just got cut out, and it just makes no sense to me.
Or like based on rumors.
Yeah.
Like maybe not even something that actually happened.
Yeah, exactly. And there was like, I can't remember who it was, but there was someone who went around to his house. And at one point he was like, oh, I don't believe, the people who say these things about you are wrong. I thought, what kind of a thing is that to say to someone?
Right.
Because then you're immediately saying, oh, everyone's slagging you off. But I don't believe in it. And he's like, well, what have people been saying about me? And it's that very toxic environment that I just, I don't envy anyone who works in an industry like that, because that sounds awful. Sounds awful.
Yeah.
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 And I wonder if there are other industries that are like that as well, or if it is just mainly fashion.
Yeah.
Because it is renowned for being cutthroat. Even though he said Devil Wears Prada isn't accurate. I don't know.
Yeah. I guess for me, I just kind of wish there was like more self-reflection in there, because all these things that happened to him, I don't know, I read it quite a long time ago, but my impression was that he didn't really feel how I would feel in those situations. He, like when Karl Lagerfeld kind of, I don't know the right word, not disposed of him, but said, I'm not going to be a friend anymore. We didn't seem to have, from just reading the book, a huge emotional reaction to that, or maybe I'm just misremembering it. Maybe he did and I'm misremembering it, but I feel like he's kind of knows that's part of the job, I guess. I wasn't kind of thinking, would this make me feel, rather than how has this made him feel? And I just didn't really get that in a lot of places, and I still don't know how he feels about lots of things. And then I guess it kind of makes me think, well, what is the purpose of a memoir if you're talking about yourself? But I feel like the best memoirs are when someone is really able to look at the things that have happened in their life and reflect on it and say, look at these terrible things that happened to me, the way I was treated. At the time, I just kind of swept it under the carpet, but now this is how I understand it. Because a lot of the time when we do experience like terrible things, we can't really process it at the time. It's only afterwards we look back on it and say, wow, that was a really horrible thing that happened to me. But there seemed like there were quite a few things, maybe a product of the fashion industry, that happened, and I just didn't really feel like he wanted to share what had happened. And I'm like, well, if you don't really want to share what's happened, then what is the purpose of you writing this? And other than it's just, here are the people I've met. Like, I don't know why anyone would want to read a book just about, this is so harsh, but that's how I was reading it. Like, I really like this book.
No, that's fair. Like, it definitely felt like a chronicling rather than reflecting on a lifetime of experiences.
Yeah.
And I think maybe this was just kind of a product of, I guess in part what we had just talked about before, where like some of it he just hadn't processed and hadn't gone through that self-reflection to be able to put that in a memoir. But also just the fact that he was a journalist. And I think this is in part where journalistic writing can maybe do a disservice to something like a memoir. And it's not that journalists can't write a good memoir and reflect on the things that they've been writing about for however many decades, but it definitely felt very, I'm chronicling some things that happened. This is what happened. This is what happened. And trying to kind of almost like have a neutral perspective on his own life to some degree.
Yeah.
But do you think it was coming from... Sorry, go on.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say it felt very factual rather than emotive. Kind of like he's taking a step back, looking at the actions, and sometimes thinking about how the feelings. But other than that, I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know. It's a bit of
It kind of felt like he was defending himself. And he was saying, look, this is what I've achieved. I've met these people have done that for me. I've done this. Like, stop putting me down. Like, don't put me down. That's how it felt to me. Like, because he was trampled on, like, by people. And I felt like, it felt like as the story moved on through his life, the more kind of, I feel sad saying it, but the more bitter he kind of sounded. And the more like jaded with stuff, and like how, and I feel like it was like a justification of his earlier career where he was so much kind of more successful, I guess, and he was in the in crowd and people were loving him for who he was. And like he was like, you know, he seemed to be like the only black man in so many situations, and how difficult that must be. And so I think I don't know if that's why he went through, and obviously this is just my impression of it, so it might be completely wrong, but I felt like that was why he was trying to prove something, like all the good things he's done through his life. And he wanted to let people know about it because he was successful in his career. He did know what he was talking about. He was very knowledgeable about fashion, and he wants people to know that. Like, that's kind of how I thought about it.
I think so too.
Yeah, but like you say, if you're not interested in that, then it's difficult to read as a book because you're like,
I don't care.
I don't care.
I think to me it's very, very much like that. But at the same time, I think those people have trampled on him, but he's not. To me, he wasn't really hugely emotionally affected by that, and it was just part of his job. And he was like, I know I'm still special. I know I'm at the top of my game, but
I feel like he was. I got the impression. I think at the end of one of the chapters, he said like something about loving Carl, and he believed that Carl loved him because someone told him that Carl had watched his documentary film that he had made, and he said he was shocked to hear that, and he was like, oh, you know, well, Carl does, you know. And I think even if it didn't come across, I felt like it must have been emotional for him, like, like, you know, because he just really respected Carl, didn't he? That's the thing. And they were friends for so long.
Yeah, just maybe didn't know how to put that into a memoir format. I don't know. Yeah.
I don't know. I felt like I could feel some emotion in him, but yeah, I don't know. I just don't understand like some of the things, because even Naomi Campbell, when she took him to Nigeria at the end, but then she was in some like weird mood when they were traveling back, and then she wouldn't even let him get on the plane when it was hot. And I was like, what kind of friend is this? Like, imagine if I'm hanging out with you guys and you're like, oh, Kim, can I just like go in because I'm feeling really hot? Can you imagine if I was like, no, me and my picture? Like, what is that? That blows my mind that people, human beings, can say that to their friends. But I cannot understand it. It doesn't make any sense. Even saying it to a complete stranger would be
great.
I think again, it's like a product of the fashion industry where people don't really have that emotional connection with other people. It's just, oh, you're a very famous and successful person, so I'm going to spend some time around you. When really it's not, they don't care so much about the bond between people as much, like kind of in the real world sort of thing. That's kind of my impression of the fashion industry anyway. It seems very kind of like artificial, and you want to hang around with the best models and the best designers, and then when they start to become less cool or the models become older, they're like, not so interested in you now. I don't know. It seems like a very interesting industry, I think.
Oh, it sounds like my nightmare. Absolutely. Like, literally. I didn't like his little dig about YouTubers though.
Oh, I don't remember that. What did he say about it?
It was like fashion YouTubers becoming because you know he interviewed at the Met Gala and stuff, didn't he? And then I think a YouTuber took over his job, and he was like,
"Oh right,
he doesn't know anything about it."
Like back in my day.
Yeah, which fair enough. You are more knowledgeable, but also don't dig on YouTubers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I feel like I'm being a bit mean about him. I feel bad.
No. I totally get it.
Yeah, no, it's kind of hard too, because like, at least to talk about a memoir, because like we don't want to, like, it's not about him as a person.
Yeah,
it's also sometimes just about how you're choosing to write about it.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many different ways you can
There is
write
a difference, but sometimes it feels like if you're criticizing one, you're criticizing the other.
Yeah. I think a lot of people feel a bit bad for kind of reviewing memoirs because they think it's like reviewing the person and that there's not a division there. But
it's like,
to me, it's always I feel like, and even like nonfiction, I think some people are put off by reviewing it. But people who read a lot of nonfiction, I don't think are. It's just people who dip in and out feel like it's criticizing like the science or whatever the book is about rather than the way it's presented, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. I think it was mainly the names and like basking in reflected glory kind of thing that really kind of put me off and made me think, is this what the audience want? And maybe I'm just the wrong person to have read it. Maybe it is like fashion people who I didn't know who he was, to be honest, until we picked it out for the book club. So maybe it's just I'm the wrong kind of person.
Or maybe he's writing for, because I mean, like, since he was a journalist, he's getting feedback on his pieces throughout the decades that he's writing. So maybe that is a reflection of just the commentary that he had gotten on his pieces over decades and decades, that he for the audience that he's writing for, he does know that that's what they want, and we're just not the typical audience that might read his memoir. Entirely possible. But,
I mean, I definitely have zero interest in fashion, so I'm not the
I'm not the target audience either, even if I found some interesting.
But because I didn't know anyone in the book, like Diana Freeland, whatever her name is, or Anna Wintour and stuff. Like, I feel like, if maybe for people who love fashion and know all the people, maybe they would find it more interesting to read about, like, who he knew. And, like when I read books about scientists, I'm like, oh, this person was friends with this person, and all this. Like, I love that.
That's a very good point, actually. When I'm like, it's the same with like authors. If I know an author's like friends with, I don't know, a scientist or someone outside the field, I'm like, whoa, that's so cool. So I think it's the same.
That's good though. I think like I'm pleased that my knowledge has expanded in the fashion world. I have a slightly different appreciation for it than I used to, definitely. So, I'm glad we read it.
It is interesting. I like the pictures. I always love pictures. Pictures and books, man. Oh, so nice. I am, well, I wouldn't say I'm hugely interested in fashion, but I am quite interested in fashion. I was looking at his pictures thinking, it's not as edgy as what I thought it was going to be, He likes the caftans, but other than that, I was thinking, not very jazzy in my opinion. But I need to say something positive. I like this. He looks pretty cool here. Can you see that?
Oh yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
That's good. That was a good decision.
Looks like
I like his hat in the cover picture in Wiccan. Is it Wiccan? That's a very good hat. Yes. I wonder where that hat is today.
I have to say though, zero chat about sustainability. So.
Yes. I hadn't even made that connection.
Usually when we read two books for this book club, there is connection, isn't there? But I felt they were completely two separate reads, even though they're about the same industry.
That's part of the problem, because people in the fashion industry just don't think about it. There wasn't even one word, was there, about it? Nothing.
No.
Also, I don't know about your editions, if there's this on the front page. I was really confused. I thought that was like a real signature. And I was like, wow, is this signed? Alas, no.
I'd forgotten to read those. I'll have to read And there's one in the back as well, isn't there?
Oh,
Oh,
interesting.
is there? Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
No, I do.
To read
This
it.
is what I miss when I only listen on audio.
Oh yeah, so you didn't see any pictures either.
Oh man,
They were
I
great.
can show you what it
If there's a really good one.
I like that
Feel
one.
free to
That's
show.
nice. Can you see?
Oh yeah.
Wait,
Oh,
is
that is a really nice one.
What? That's
Yeah,
that,
the same
that's
hat.
Yeah.
He was like, "This
You
is
are.
my hat, man."
Yeah. Who's that there? See, now I'm interested in the people. Oh, is that what's her name? Bridget Jones lady.
Renee Zellweger.
Yeah. Didn't he say he was friends with her? I can't remember now.
Well, they did a photo shoot together, and she had some I'm not a fan of fur, but like real fur. And there was so much where I was like, all these celebrities, like, I don't think they'd stand up now and say that they were into fur stuff.
Yeah.
I think Renee Zellweger had some sort of crocodile bag, and I was like, I don't know. I'm not a fan of that stuff, but I know other people don't mind, but it's not for me.
No. I really like the pattern, but the thought of it just really, really creeps me out. Like any animal.
Yeah.
Have you seen the leaf bags that are made of leaves? Have like how do I describe it? Let me try and find a picture. I hope nothing bad's going to happen if I do this. I might leave a comment in the thing. Oh, so cool. Leaf bag. It's just coming up with embroidered things made of leaves. I think this bag is so cool. Or a purse. Anyway, I'll talk about it and I'll put a comment in the thing if people were interested. But I think these look so cool. I think they're on Dragon's Den at some point. Oh yeah, this is an example. Let's visit this. Oh man, it's so cool. Hold on a
Where have you put it?
Hopefully that will come up. I don't even know if it will click on if it will make it a hyperlink or not.
Oh yeah, no.
Oh, salmon. It's called THAMON. Man.
Oh, interesting.
I don't think it talked about leaf bags in Fashionopolis, did it? I can't remember now. But yeah, it's just a really interesting.
Tree leaves with textile lining and vegan-friendly leather. Interesting.
Huh.
Yeah, I like that. That's nice.
Yeah, I do like that.
It's funky. I can't remember how that's got anything to do with this bloke, but yeah.
It looks cool though.
Yeah, and it's not massively expensive.
No, yeah, it's actually pretty reasonably priced for.
Yeah, exactly.
Vegan crossbody bag.
Well, guys.
Interesting.
Well, I don't know what our next topic is going to be or when we're going to be doing it, but we will be brainstorming.
Indeed.
To come up with something.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm very uncomfortable in my very uncomfortable chair. I have like a wooden old IKEA dining room chair that's been eaten by rabbits.
I have also an IKEA chair. It's a pink plastic one. Do you know the classic? Oh, you can't see it. Classic pink. IKEA chair.
Okay, nice.
And my lovely camera stand. Yes. I haven't used in over a month. Oops.
I got a really comfy one for here because this is also where I work, and so I have to have a comfortable chair here.
Oh man, I'm jealous.
I'm like, I gotta like if there's one thing I need to invest in,
it's a good chair.
It's a stand desk so that I can also stand up when.
Yeah. Yeah. My partner has
one to stand up, and then a comfy chair when I want to sit down. Like 100% worth the investment.
Yeah.
Definitely jealous. Cool guys. So is that everything?
I think that's.
Was there anything on House of Gucci you wanted to mention, Kim?
Oh yeah, House of Gucci. I didn't finish the book, so I don't know if I should.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
Yeah. Did you finish reading it?
I did. I was like halfway through when we watched the movie, but I did actually finish it. But okay, you have to let me know what you think if and when you finish it.
Oh no, I don't think I'm gonna finish it.
No. Okay.
No. Was it different to the movie?
Well, I mean, the movie left a lot out. So,
okay. Yeah.
Which makes it because it was a long book. To be fair, it was was much longer than like I thought it would be, until you had pointed it out. I think when you first showed the physical copy in one of you, I don't remember which one, but I was like, dang, what did I guess? I didn't realize how long it was until you held up, and I was like, oh, that was a mistake on my part. That's my bad.
I think like if I got it, I think now we've seen the movie, I feel like now I know. Well, obviously I don't, because there's loads left out, but I just don't think I have time to go back to it.
Yeah, no, that's right. It is a long book, and like, you know, the movie covers the basics. Like, I mean, it's not that there's anything dramatically different about the book. It's just a lot of other just like random side things that I'm like, huh, interesting, that weren't covered in the movie. But
are you going to watch it, Hannah? Do you think?
If I have means to, I shall. But I don't have like any like subscription things or a Skybox. I just have Freeview, which I don't know if you have in like America, but it's just free viewing.
Free TV.
Yeah, it was on Prime for me, and I didn't realize that. I mean, like, obviously I know subscription things could be different in different countries, but I was like, oh, it's on Prime, and then just didn't think about it for literally anywhere else. I was just like, oh, it's on Prime, cool. Maybe it'll be accessible for people. No.
But that's the thing, it's so different, isn't it, by country, that you could never,
so since it was easy for me, and I thought it would be easy for other people, I was like, oh, because like, would I invest a lot to like own or see the movie? Like, probably not, but like, since it was easy. So also my bad.
No, not at all. You can't. That's the thing. It's not going to be free for everyone, is it? Yeah, that's the way it goes. So it's all good.
I thought it was interesting. I don't know. I thought the book was pretty interesting. Definitely longer than I feel like it needed to be. It's also an interesting writing style of like her writing it as though she were in the room and like talking about. So like when conversations were going on between people, it's like she's talking about what facial expression they had and like how they were saying it, like as though she were in the room there with them. And I'm like, there's no way you were.
Yeah.
But like it was written as though, which is interesting, an interesting choice, and made it feel like you were there in the room with these conversations and like the arguments between some of the family members and like. Anyway.
I never thought about like, how does she know this stuff?
Right. Like,
she wasn't there. She's not part of their family.
Like she's going based off, like, you know, just so many interviews. I'm like, how even if you're interviewing these people, like, it's however many years later, like, how do they? Anyway, but it made it, I think, a compelling listen. But. And sometimes just like shit would happen. I'm like, oh damn! I would not want to be anywhere near this. But anyway, okay. Random aside for our bonus book.
It's a shame, really, for like the founders of Gucci. The founder that his family went into complete disarray.
Like
as it went down.
It would have been a complete shit show.
Yeah, that's a shame.
But interesting to read about on the outside when you can just be like, oh. Anyway. But yeah, we'll have to give a think to what to do for the next round.
Definitely.
If there are suggestions.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe we should come up with a few and then do a poll or something and see what people are interested in. That might be a good idea.
Yeah.
We used to do that previously, didn't we, Hannah? At the beginning.
We just decided.
Now that we just make cool. Well, thanks for hosting us, Hannah.
Thank you for coming along. It's been very good. I've enjoyed it. And it was good learning more about fashion and I think two very different perspectives as well. It kind of makes you realize how huge this industry is and all the different kinds of people involved as well. It's interesting. And like you said, Kim, I don't think I would want to work in it. in the kind of high fashion world,
Yeah.
I don't think so. But yeah, it was interesting to kind of read about the different individuals and kind of different perspectives on everything, which I guess is why we run the book club, really, is to kind of learn about different things within the same realm, if that makes sense. Or am I just talking rubbish?
No, just different perspectives on things, for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody, and thank you for coming along. I think we'll post maybe on Instagram, or I don't know if anyone actually still uses Twitter. I'm not going to call it its new name. I refuse.
It's our name. That's why we can't call it its new name. I keep seeing it on my phone, like the icon, thinking, oh, what is that club thing? Like, no.
I didn't realise that Elon Musk is trying to like X everything, like SpaceX.
Right.
To try and, what was the other X thing he wants to do? I can't remember now.
Yeah.
Is it the cars? But his Tesla. Don't get it.
Yeah, Tesla.
Sure.
Yeah.
He just loves letters.
Yeah. I named his son or daughter a bunch of letters.
Oh, right. Yeah.
No one knows how to pronounce. Good stuff.
So does that mean, are we off X now? We could always move to Threads. Is that people using that?
I'm on Threads. People don't really use it that much.
Okay.
It's kind of died already.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, I think between Instagram and the Discord, hopefully we could.
Yeah, Instagram, YouTube, and Discord. Yeah.
Some feedback.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes. I'll get thinking of some topics.
It will generate ideas in October because there's nothing that's going to be coming out until October. Like nothing.
Sounds good.
Anyway.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
See you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.